I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what I am about to tell you is not a routine weather update. It is not the kind of forecast you half listen to while you're scrolling your phone or making dinner. What is building across the United States right now, what the atmosphere is assembling piece by piece, layer by layer, day by day, is the most dangerous severe weather pattern this country has seen since the month of April. And if you live anywhere from the northern plains through the Midwest and into the Ohio Valley, the next 72 hours are going to demand your full attention in a way that the last several weeks simply have not. Let me put this in perspective for you. May was quiet. Unusually, almost eerily quiet for a month that historically ranks among the most explosive on the severe weather calendar. We had isolated events, we had a few tornadoes scattered here and there, but nothing that rose to the level of a true outbreak, nothing that made forecasters sit up and reach for the phone to call their colleagues. That quiet stretch lulled a lot of people into a sense of normalcy, a sense that maybe the worst of severe weather season had somehow passed without making its full presence known. But that is not how the atmosphere works. It does not run out of energy. It does not simply decide to take the summer off. What it does is load. It builds. It stores. And then when the pattern shifts and the conditions align, it releases. All at once. With everything it has been holding back. That release is coming. It is coming this week. And it starts today. Today, Monday, is actually the lowest and severe weather day of the next 4 days. I want you to hear that clearly. The day I am about to describe to you right now, with its tornado risks and its giant hail and its damaging winds reaching up to 85 miles per hour, is the quietest day of this entire stretch. Everything after this gets significantly more serious. So pay attention to what today looks like, and then understand that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are going to make today look minor by comparison. Right now, across the Central Plains, the Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe weather in place for Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado. 3 separate marginal threat areas are also active, one across the mid-Mississippi River Valley, one across the Central Plains, and one in the far northern plains. All hazards of severe weather are on the table today. That phrase, all hazards, means exactly what it sounds like. Tornadoes, damaging winds, giant hail. All of it is possible today across multiple regions simultaneously. Straight-line damaging winds as high as 85 miles per hour are possible, stretching from northeast Colorado into Wichita, Kansas. That is not a typo. 85 miles per hour. That is wind speed, comparable to a Category 1 hurricane. That is the kind of wind that takes down trees that have been standing for decades, that flips vehicles, that tears roofing material off houses like paper. And that is just the wind threat today. The hail threat today is also deeply serious. A few storms firing this afternoon have the potential to produce tennis ball to baseball-sized hail from Goodland, Kansas, back into Fort Collins and Denver. If you have a vehicle parked outside anywhere near that corridor, today, move it. Find covered parking. Get it into a garage. Because baseball-sized hail falling at terminal velocity does not dent your car. It destroys it. And then there's the tornado threat. We now have a 5% tornado risk just northeast of Denver today. A large 2% tornado risk stretching all the way to Wichita, Kansas, and even near the Ottawa area. And in the mid-Mississippi River Valley, there's a low-end chance of an isolated tornado spinning up from a remnant mesoscale convective vortex, a swirling cluster of leftover storm energy that can produce brief, dangerous tornadoes with very little warning. Back over near the Rockies, discrete supercells are expected to fire between 5 and 6 in the evening near Fort Morgan, Sterling, and Lyman, and those supercells will be capable of very large hail and a tornado or two. And in central Kansas, if a storm manages to fire just north of a large area of swirling atmospheric instability sitting near Woodward and just west of Wichita, the low-level wind shear in that environment is strong enough to support a tornado. It is highly conditional. It requires a storm to fire in exactly the right location. But if it happens, you will want to be paying attention. That is Monday, the calm before the storm. And now let me tell you about what comes next. Tuesday is a different conversation entirely. Tuesday is the day that has forecasters watching model trends every single hour. Because Tuesday has the potential, the real, legitimate, data-supported potential, to produce a tornado outbreak across the northern plains. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued a large Level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe weather for North Dakota, South Dakota, and northwestern Minnesota. But here's the detail that elevates Tuesday above a normal enhanced risk day. They have already mentioned that a moderate risk of severe weather, that is Level 4 out of 5, is on the table if things start trending in the right direction. And what would drive that upgrade to a moderate risk? Not wind, not hail, tornadoes. A 10% hatch tornado probability is already in place for Bismarck, Minot, and stretching east all the way to the Grand Forks and Fargo areas. That hatched 10%, for those of you who follow severe weather forecasting, is not a routine designation. That is the Storm Prediction Center telling you that the tornadoes being forecast for this area have a meaningful probability of being significant. EF2 or stronger, the kind of tornadoes that do not just down trees and damage roofs, the kind that can level structures, the kind that demand you be in the lowest interior room of the sturdiest building available. The setup on Tuesday is driven by a powerful low-level jet cranking across the northern plains. Discrete supercells are expected to begin firing between 3 and 4 in the afternoon in far western South Dakota between Rapid City and Bismarck. And here is the critical variable that every forecaster is watching with extreme focus: whether those storms stay discrete, whether they can maintain their individual supercell structure long enough to tap into the extraordinary wind shear environment that will be in place. Because if they do stay discrete, the tornado threat goes very high, very fast. We have a 45% probability of very large hail within a 25-mile radius of Bismarck and Jamestown. 2 separate lines of thunderstorms are expected to develop, producing damaging winds anywhere from 60 to 85 miles per hour. And the models are hinting that the most intense discrete supercells on Tuesday could actually end up tracking into Manitoba. If that happens, and the high-resolution models are pointing in that direction, we could be talking about a tornado outbreak, not just in North Dakota, in Manitoba as well. Either way, whether the storms upscale into a line and produce a catastrophic damaging wind event, or whether they stay discrete and produce a tornado outbreak, Tuesday is a day that demands absolute weather awareness if you live anywhere in the northern plains. Bismarck, Minot, Grand Forks, Fargo, Jamestown, Aberdeen. If you live in any of these communities, you need to have your shelter plan locked in before 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You need to have multiple ways to receive warnings. You need to know exactly where you are going and how you are getting there when the warnings start dropping. And then Wednesday arrives. And Wednesday is the word that is keeping me up at night. The Storm Prediction Center has a large enhanced risk of severe weather in place for Wednesday that has already shifted east on the most recent outlook. It now includes Minneapolis, near Des Moines, northwestern Illinois, and almost all of Wisconsin. The slight risk of severe weather now includes Chicago and Milwaukee, cities that were not even inside the slight risk yesterday. Kansas City is also included. A marginal threat covers most of Michigan. This risk area is growing. It is expanding eastward with each new model run, and the ingredients that are driving that expansion are not subtle. Significant tornado parameter values on Wednesday are going to be elevated pretty much everywhere inside the risk corridor. The oranges and yellows on the parameter maps, the colors that indicate at least a medium-range tornado threat, cover a broad swath of the Midwest, near Wausau, near Duluth, and north of Minneapolis. These are not background noise values. These are values that forecasters take seriously. Values that indicate the atmosphere will be genuinely primed to support supercell thunderstorms with persistent rotating updrafts. Here is how Wednesday is expected to unfold. By 1 to 2 in the afternoon, supercells will begin firing north of Davenport and near Wausau. These initial storms will be the most dangerous of the day from a tornado standpoint. They will be capable of all hazards: significant damaging winds, baseball to apple-sized hail, and a real risk of strong tornadoes. And if those supercells can stay discrete long enough, if they do not get merged into a line before they have the chance to fully exploit the atmospheric environment, there's a legitimate risk of a long-track tornado on Wednesday. A tornado that does not touch down briefly and rope. Out. A tornado that stays on the ground, that travels, that covers distance in a way that gives it time to intensify and widen and do the kind of damage that gets cataloged alongside the great outbreak days of the historical record. By 6 to 7 in the evening, storms will begin to upscale. The tornado threat decreases at that point, but it does not go to zero. Any storm that remains discrete, as the line is consolidating, will still carry the risk of a strong and potentially large tornado. And then by 9 to 10 at night, the storm mode shifts decisively to linear. And what you get from that point forward is a significant damaging wind threat sweeping across Wisconsin, Iowa, near Milwaukee, and down into Chicago during the late evening Wednesday into the early morning hours Thursday. A wall of wind, a squall line moving through densely populated areas in the dark, producing widespread damaging gusts across a region where millions of people will be asleep and unaware of what is moving toward them unless their alerts are active and their phones are on and their weather radios are ready. And then Thursday comes. And Thursday, even after everything Tuesday and Wednesday will have already delivered, Thursday brings an entirely new storm system into the equation. A brand new low-pressure system pushing out of the Rockies and into the Midwest on Thursday. A surface-based low with very strong low-level winds wrapped around it. An enhanced tornado threat already designated by the Storm Prediction Center for parts of the Midwest, including Milwaukee, Chicago, back into Columbia. A large slight risk of severe weather from Michigan all the way back into Oklahoma. By 2 to 4 in the afternoon Thursday, multiple supercells are expected to be firing from Milwaukee and Appleton back into Peoria and Quincy, producing all hazards of severe weather. Significant damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes. Those storms are not expected to wind down until sometime during the very early morning hours on Friday. 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 3 consecutive days of severe weather potential at a level this country has not seen since April. 3 days during which a tornado outbreak, or potentially multiple tornado outbreaks, is not just possible, but genuinely on the table. 3 days during which millions of people across the northern plains, the Midwest, and the Ohio Valley will need to be actively, constantly, seriously weather aware. And Friday does not even give the atmosphere time to fully recover. Another risk of severe weather is on the table for parts of the Northeast, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, back into Kentucky, with damaging winds, hail, and a low tornado risk. And beyond Friday, the pattern does not show any signs of shutting down. The active severe weather regime that is now arriving is not a brief flash of activity followed by a return to the quiet of May. This is a pattern shift. This is the atmosphere telling you that the real peak of severe weather season has finally arrived. So here is what I need you to do, right now. Before you close this video and go back to whatever you were doing before, if you live in the northern plains, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Tuesday is your day. Have your plan in place before the afternoon. Know your shelter, have your alerts active. If you live in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, Wednesday is your day, and it could be a very long day, supercells in the afternoon, a damaging wind threat into the night. Have your plan ready before 1 o'clock. Wednesday afternoon. If you live in the Chicago metro, Milwaukee, the broader Great Lakes region, Thursday adds another layer on top of Wednesday. You're potentially looking at severe weather on back-to-back days. That means your plan needs to be ready, and it needs to stay ready. The single most important thing you can do right now, tonight, is make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. Wireless emergency alerts on your phone, turned on. Volume up device near where you sleep. A weather radio with battery backup set to activate for your county. Your local National Weather Service office bookmarked. Your shelter location identified. Your family briefed. These are not complicated steps. They do not take a long time. But they are the difference between being ready and not being ready. And when a tornado warning drops and the storm is 12 minutes from your location, ready and not ready are not the same outcome. The worst storm system since April is coming. The data is clear. The models are in agreement. The Storm Prediction Center is already signaling the severity of what is ahead. This is not hype. This is not speculation. This is the atmosphere following through on what the physics have been building toward for weeks. Pay attention, stay ready, and stay with us. Because we'll be live through every single one of these days, bringing you real-time coverage, real-time updates, and everything you need to stay one step ahead of what is coming. This is the week that changes the tone of the entire severe weather season. And it starts right now. Stay safe. We will see you in the next one.